Welcome to the Digital Transformation Podcast, a podcast that connects you with the most influential players in this field who are shaping up the world around us digitally. We help you gain an edge on your competition, whether you're a small business owner, CEO, or just someone who wants to stay informed on all things digital. This is your go-to source. With your host, Michelle Cimino, the CEO of the Lasting Dynamics Group.
Welcome everyone to our new episode about digital transformation. Today we welcome Mr. Ozan Sönmez, that is Global Ambassador at UC Berkeley and co-founder of Sage HQ, Zillion Pitches and Yellowvex. Welcome, Ozan. I would like you to introduce a bit yourself for starting and also talk a bit about your activities and realities.
Thank you so much, the whole Lasting Dynamics team. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Ozan. I'm currently based in Istanbul, but my company is based in Estonia. I partner with a lot of institutions in the US and in Middle East. So I lived abroad for quite some time and came back to Istanbul before the pandemic, luckily. And now I'm still working remotely for global institutions, accelerators, large corporations, and I'm also at the same time building 2 startups.
Okay, perfect. Mr. Ozan, as anticipated, we will talk about digital transformation. The whole episode is going to be on this topic. So as you might be already well aware of, governments and companies talk about digital transformation all the time. And I would like to understand, according to your experience on the ground, what is actually digital transformation for you?
So I think from a professional standpoint, we can divide it into 3 segments, actually. One of them is just pure transformation. The transformation from the mindset where what we provide is what everybody needs to let's ask what everybody needs. So it's participation, first and foremost. So the transformation is in the mindset of large enterprises, even governments, but mostly municipalities, local policymakers. A lot of the times this is being neglected and everybody's focused on the digital and technology. But I think what's the underlying factor that we're talking too much about this digital transformation is a lot of these institutions have decided, have learned, have been told many times that they need to transform their mindset. And the mindset is towards what does my customer want? What does my citizen want? What does my constituent want? What does my employee want? Etc. Et so I think through the use of social media, getting your voice heard, a lot of elements in the economy have started to be very vocal. And that is the first step of transformation, if you ask me. After that, transformation became a lot more accessible. And the way it became a lot more accessible is through digital means. So that's the second layer of digitizing access, digitizing reach, and enabling the platforms, the baseline of communication. And I think the third layer is bringing them together, like digitally transforming is enabling communication to happen, data to be recorded, information to be shared, feedback to be received through digital channels. So the 3 elements, like there has to be a transformation. There has been a lot of transformation in the mindset. There has been a lot of developments in the digital side. It's enabling technologies. And now these 2 are merging. Institutions, governments, municipalities, any type of organization is blending the whole aspects of both together and creating a digital transformation movement, you can call it.
It is extremely interesting that you have been pointing out as a first part of this transformation, a transformation in the mindset, but you have been mentioning customers, employees, citizens. So you see people as an active part of this transformation. Absolutely. Can you explode a bit this concept and try to give us your idea about it? Yeah.
Before the widespread of fast internet and access to devices, whether that's laptops or smartphones, the services, the fundamentals have always been the same. People at top decision-making policies, like whether it's a government or a small entity or local municipality or corporate, they would make the decisions by themselves, as if they're semi-gods, small gods of their own universes. So they were making every decision by themselves through their knowledge of what is right, what is wrong, without too much feedback, because it wasn't available for them to get. The only feedback they got is when they had a face-to-face conversation, when they have some needs, some crises, everything else. Now it's changed. Like people are now demanding change. People are demanding services. Employees are demanding things to be done differently. Citizens of a country or residents of a city are now demanding things, which was a part of, yes, a democratic expansion and everything else, but it's more like now people are able, before this mindset, before this digital enabled life, the way you could give your opinion to the municipality was to spend a few hours at the gates of the municipality, go up 2 steps, go down 3 steps, go up to one, and then just keep going, bouncing back and forth in one building to find the right person to talk to and say, I want my road fixed. I want this to be done. So whatever you have as a complaint in a municipality or whatever you have as a complaint to a company as a customer, it will be difficult and very inconvenient for you to take the time, take the energy, take the effort to tell what they should be doing, what you think they should be doing. Now it's very easy. And that's probably why a lot of people are now very actively engaged in demanding change, whether that's governance change, whether that's policy change, whether that's application change. People are now able to demand things through the use of digital media. If you can't call center in 20 minutes, first, you don't wait for 20 minutes anymore. If you don't get them in 2 minutes, you just go online and you tweet whatever you want. You hashtag the company, you hashtag the municipality, you hashtag what you're complaining about, and they'll call you back. Because nobody likes to be looking bad or irresponsive or arrogant. So that small kingdoms and small things are now a little bit more accessible. Now I can shoot down whoever I want. And if they don't get back to me, I can make it go viral. I can make a video. I can make a TikTok. I can make fun of it. I can create a YouTube video. I can make myself look much larger than I am. Because I'm only a single individual, but I have a network. Even though I'm not a celebrity, anybody now can actually become very effective advocates of change just by using digital tools. The demand transformation is now enabled through all the digital technologies. And now people say, okay, if I don't like it, I'll say it. And now you start seeing, for example, you go to a restaurant. I've seen this many times. They literally have a small thing that says, please complain to us first before tweeting about it. If you have a problem, they want to solve the problem one-on-one with you. They will give you a dessert, they'll give you a discount, they'll give you this, they'll give you that, because they don't want you to start shouting how bad that restaurant is online, because then they'll lose business. And the same, municipalities, elections, governance, if you don't like about them, if you do, they do something stupid, you just rant about it. And if you have enough clout, then they will have to do something about it.
Yeah, I've been following the progression of your reasoning, and I have to say, what I can understand and I agree with is that there is a change that is happening in the people thanks to the evolution of the technology as a tool that is definitely opening new opportunities, not only on the market, but also, as you mentioned, for citizens that want to react to. So this mindset, the digitalization, data collection and analysis journey seems to demand also training. What do you think about the training aspect? This involves how can governments, how can companies eventually upskill or reskill their own people, make sure that they could be fully trained and prepared to use the right way this powerful tool?
It's $1 million question. And I have one very optimistic and one very pessimistic answer to that. One of the pessimistic answer, I'll give you that first. This also ties to what we do at Sage. Everything, every economic entity, every economic establishment, and the whole ecosystem of economics, with institutions, governance, we're subject to change through use of technology. This has been the same. Let's not go back to the time where paper is invented and documentation is invented, but even go for any technology that has been created has impact in the economy. Sometimes it causes people to lose jobs. Sometimes it causes people to gain more jobs. But there is the change. It's slow, usually. And that has been the case. The change and the societal and economic change impacting the people because of technology has been slow. So people were able to adapt. Like secretaries who were just using typewriters. There are no typists anymore. but they're using computers. So it's a translation, and it moved mountains. So when the first IBMs and first enterprise computers emerged, it changed how economics was done, how finance was reported. Everything was moved, but everybody adjusted. It took tremendous amount of time and effort and training, but it was done. But we don't have that luxury now because change is happening really fast and disruption is happening really fast. Before, governments and large corporations, I also include like local municipalities and like governance infrastructures, not just the national government, but the local governments as well. They had the time to adapt. They built training programs, they partnered with institutions of education, and they asked for education reforms so that they can hire people to do the job that is now necessary. They were able to get the education juggernauts, universities primarily, and high schools and technical schools in some cases, to adapt and teach the necessary skill that they require. So most of that transformation happened through the push of education. New finance degrees, new engineering degrees, industrial engineering, chemical engineering, economics, financial engineering. So there were lots of new degrees that were evolved during the time, but it was a very slow progress. Now we see that the change that's happening so fast, universities are not able to adapt. A regular student that starts learning something, anything, in the first year of the school has almost no chance of using that knowledge 4 years later when he graduates or she graduates. The pace is so long, whatever they taught you 4 years ago is completely obsolete. You're not going to use that knowledge for anything useful in your life. But the university had to fill out credit, so they gave you that course, which is useless. Second year, third year, the only time you're actually coming closer to the working class when you graduate, the last couple of years are probably where you actually know a little bit of some things that you'll be applying, but nothing that you learned in the first, second year is applicable at all. So that's the bad news. University systems are not designed to transform themselves to be able to help the digital transformation and the new needs of the new industry and the new governance. So that's the bad news. Some other institutions like us and others has to step in. That's why now we're seeing a lot of non-university, non-degree granting education institutions are emerging, most of them for-profit startups, and they have the latest curriculum that will get you a job in Google, that will get you a job in Facebook, that will get you a job in IBM, that will get you a job in XYZ. How do they get those curriculums? They go and talk to the industry. They say, hey, Google, hey, big tech, or any fintech company, any large company, what skills do you need to have in these people so you can hire them? And then they tell you, okay, I need this, I need this, I need this. And they build a curriculum and they sell it to individuals. In the future, this is going to be the normal path to employment, not university, but subcultures and countries or companies like that. That's the bad part. The good part is, again, access has become cheap, affordable, and to the right trained individual, access is also free. Anybody can train themselves to learn a new skill with the correct curation, with the correct guidance. So that's something the governments and large corporations are trying to find. They're not trying to find a solution partner that will create magic for everything. They're now understanding this transformation has to be an integral part of their understanding. So they'll keep on partnering with large institutions, software development houses, think tanks, not just only to do the technical piece, but also the thinking piece. Before, all companies had one key fallacy. They always believed, every HR department, they always believed, oh, we have the right people, the best people in the industry. That's baloney at the moment. No company can claim they have the best employees. Every company knows there are great talent anywhere in the planet, not just in their vicinity, not just in their district and city and country. There's great talent that they need to communicate with, they need to partner with, work with, find projects with globally. So this whole COVID mess, I hope, transformed how HRs, corporate governance structures, or national or local governance structures have started looking into things. They don't have the best people. They have good people, probably, but not the best. And there is no best at the other hand. Everybody is now able to improve themselves in order to get all that combined knowledge, all that information. They need to try and look for the right partners because they can't do everything by themselves.
You touched quite an important point. As you are well aware of, we developed an academy, Lasting Dynamics Academy. I can briefly tell you that according to our experience, what we discovered is that our first goal was to try to fill the gap between university and professional career.
Yes.
And that gap in most of Europe, let's say, faced into different ways. There are universities probably of South, Mid Europe that prepare students in a very theoretical way and then demand, completely to them the second half of the training that needs to happen on the ground inside the company.
100%.
And it's very common that the big titans on the market like IBM or Accenture, they literally started from scratch when hiring people freshly graduated from the university. And there are others, probably more North European, that instead go very much in depth into a specific knowledge, but this also has some other kind of downsides in the end. So it's very hard to understand. So what we genuinely wanted to create was a place where people could see the light and the path. Just that,
Absolutely.
The second thing was most of them were coming saying, oh, wow, I spent 2 years of my life trying to learn this online. I learned with you in 3 days. Why? Because the internet bombs you with a lot of information that most of the time is not even relevant, So you
not
actually
outdated,
to get
not relevant.
Absolutely. And then it ended up becoming the place where for free people could train and then later be onboarded in our own software house, Lasting Dynamics, with a very successful rate, building also a kind of mindset and a talent pool, etc. Incredible that we ended up even having these junior academies raising all around Italy and then in Spain and other places where some entrepreneurs autonomously came to us saying, can I run a junior academy preparing the guys for the next step? And I want to ask you actually something that is extremely funny because it's connected to this topic. What do you think about this news? Okay, so the first one is actually not a news, it's a reality. We know that the world is in demand of tech people, and at the moment there is a lack of expertise everywhere. So the demand is way much higher than the offer at the moment. And the Kenyan president just recently stated that Kenya is the first African country and probably one of the first 5 in the whole world introducing coding in primary and secondary school. What do you think about it? It left me without words. I love it because I believe that coding is like physics, mathematics, algebra, it needs to be there.
So again, I try to have a dualist perspective on all of these questions. They are big questions. On the one hand, it's great that any country is creating a national agenda to teach people how to code. I mean, nobody's going to say, oh, coding is useless. It's very necessary. However, coding without purpose, knowing coding or learning coding without purpose, without infrastructure, is also pointless. If you keep teaching people one-sided path, and if you tell people everybody needs to learn coding, everybody needs to understand the basic mentality about coding, much like everybody needs to understand the basic mentality about creating a startup, being a founder, being an entrepreneur. That's a mindset. So yes, mindset-wise, everybody has to think a little bit more numerical. Everybody has to understand what an algorithm is, how it helps make decisions faster, cheaper, and more efficient, much like everybody needs to understand what entrepreneurship is about, why it's necessary to create value for yourself and for your environment and for your society. So these are fundamental skills. But should we train everybody to become coders? Absolutely not. That's a disaster. Then we're going to have people who does not understand the context of things, who will only think about numbers and numeric, but will not understand social sides, will not understand history, will not understand language, will not understand psychology or sociology. So people has to be directed as early as possible to discover what they are good with. If that's coding, 100%. Get them whatever degree, whatever course possible. That kid loves coding. That's going to live coding. But if another kid does not want to do anything with coding, they have to say, okay, I will learn this to use it in thinking about other things. So the most critical aspect that's missing in education is cross-fertilization and
I agree.
diversity. If you are going to be a doctor, great, you have to have the skills to become a doctor, but you don't want doctors who does not understand human psychology. And you don't want doctors to come and say, well, life is great, but that is part of it, deal with it. That's not understanding the psychology of the patients, the psychology of the people who love them. Yeah, it's a fact. It's a scientific fact. If there's a terminal illness, the doctor has to communicate that there's something wrong, and they can choose to communicate it very bluntly. They say, oh, you're going to die. If they don't pay attention to psychology, to culture, to perspective, to society in general, they're just going to say what it is. And they're not going to understand what's wrong. Same with engineers, same with architects, same with economists. Every profession has to have enough diversity embedded into their understanding of the world. It's not one-sided anymore. So cross-fertilization of jobs, new skills that are brought with interaction of different degrees, things that are more rigid, like blocks of information, silos of degrees, is not able to provide enough solutions for the wicked problems that we're facing in the world. No engineer can solve the problem of climate change. It's not an engineering problem. No economist can solve the problem of climate change. It's not an economics problem. No space astronaut can solve. They have to understand the problem from different angles. They have to know how to collaborate. Only then we can solve the large problems of the society, of the world. And in order to do that, we need to understand a lot of new things. So the famous terminology of becoming a T-shaped person. You'll have to know a lot of things that they exist. And then you can choose one or two verticals where you want to get deeper in terms of practice, in terms of understanding, in terms of degree. Only then you can look into the problems with a more diverse set of eyes and solve it. Same is true for digital transformation. If you only let engineers try and solve the societal problems of a city or a citizenship or a corporate through engineering only, it's going to fail 100%. They have to know how to talk to people. They have to know how to do observations. They have to be very diligent in data collection. They have to be very diligent in connecting contact, connecting culture. You can't just say, okay, here's what we do. We're great engineers. We build a product. You just start using it. It cannot happen that way. And that's the core of design thinking. That's the core of digital transformation. If that's the core, it works. If not, it just becomes a technology that becomes useless.
Absolutely. This circulates back to the idea that part of the digital transformation, the biggest part of it is the communication. The world is in demand of teams rather way much more than individuals, people collaborating for that. And I totally agree with that. We analyzed a lot the educational aspect and the academic world, but what is, in your opinion, the impact of digital transformation on the startup scene and the VCs world?
Stay tuned for the part 2 of this podcast, where we go in depth into the topics like future of digital transformation, VCs and the startup world, and how you can make the best use of all this in your business. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned to our next episode.